by the time I was leaving, I mean, I'd already gotten to like a plateau in my career progression on the team anyway. So I knew it was time to leave.
Was that a sudden decision, or had you put some plans in place for, like, with your family or financially? How had you prepped?
It was a decision of like 2 months.
Oh, okay.
And Google was laying off people at that time. So I was wishing I would get laid off. I even asked my manager, like, can you put me on the list? And she's like, this is above my pay grade. I can't. And I couldn't stay and wait for that because I need to be happy with what I do. And at this stage, I wasn't happy. And I think it was beginning to show, and I didn't realize it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Day One Diaries, the podcast where we speak to business owners about those fun and nervy times when you think about leaving a 9 to 5, head out to the world to build something of your own. In this episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Toju Duke. Toju is a key voice in the world of responsible AI. She's many books and publications talking about the need for diverse training data to be used in all AI tools. It was so fascinating to speak to Toju, especially as she told me this wasn't actually her area of expertise originally. A passing interest in the world of AI led her to understand the changes it could mean for the world, and in particular, the changes it would mean for the world her daughters were growing up in. In the second part, we get into the title of this episode, Beyond the Badge. As Toju started to represent Google at very high levels in the world of responsible AI, it came with a lot of need for sign-offs and approvals on where she could speak, what she could say. She longed for the freedom to do what she wanted. But when she took it, she had to deal with the differences in how people treated her without that brand behind her. This is so common among people who start up in the same space as their previous job. Nevertheless, you can really hear the passion that drives Toju and her business forward now, as she continues to look to build a world where her daughters can grow up safe and happy. It was so inspiring to hear from Toju, and I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation too. Remember, folks, if you like this content, we've got a new episode of Day One Diaries every 2 weeks. Enjoy the show. Toju, you're super welcome. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me, Brad.
No worries. It's real nice to see you again. So let's talk. First of all, tell us about your business. Tell us about what you do these days.
Right. I don't know if you remember my days back at Google, but I never really did one thing. And it's the same. So I can't say I have one business. I have like three different organizations. So I've got Diverse AI, which I launched with my co-founder at the time 2 years ago, and it's a non-profit organization for AI, really to drive diversity in the field of AI. I've got the Speaking, which is a business, and I think it took me a few months to realize that it's a business because it generates an income. And I've also got a new startup called Bedrock AI. I might change the name along the line, but for now, it's Bedrock AI, and it's really around putting together all the different touch points in AI and helping businesses, helping them to automate it and then bring in a responsible AI layer. It hasn't kicked off to an MVP stage yet. We're still on the R&D phase, but that's one of the things that I've been working on as well. And then I also had the books that I worked on after I left Google, and so many other projects around consultancies.
Right. Okay. Just to dig in a little bit there. So I understand the responsible AI. So this is a lot of your work in or sorry, diverse AI, I should say. So this is a lot of your work in making sure that AI tools and AI languages are all based and trained on a diverse range of information and images, etc., etc. Well, that is that how you frame that?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the issues with AI right now is it's a very homogenic field. So it's full of white male, built by white male from Silicon Valley. And because of that, some of the issues we've had with AI is due to the people that have built it because of the lack of diversity. So with diverse AI, the idea was to contribute towards diversity. So we do it across three different initiatives: education, so offering free educational courses, or doing free educational workshops, particularly to people from marginalized backgrounds, so that they have a good taste and a feeling of what the field of AI looks like. And if they want to pursue their careers in AI, they can go along with that. The next thing we do is research work. So research work is really helping towards driving further diversity in the output of AI, right? So when we talk
Mm,
about bias in AI, for instance, bias in the images, like a bias in the text to image models that we have with generative AI. We're working on ways we can actually reduce those biases and make people to be more represented. And that's just one of the examples. And just like, improving data sets that are out there. So one of our current projects is working towards improving image data sets, and reducing the biases in them and making it an open source free data set for people to use. And the third part of that is events. So it's just like driving further community amongst people who want to identify with diverse AI. And we tend to have a few events throughout the year.
Excellent. Excellent. Really nice. And so I'm guessing as a result of doing those events, you were getting requests to be a speaker at different things, and that's where that side of the business came from.
No.
You know, things aren't as linear as that.
Speaking started just before COVID, really. So
Oh,
way back when I was at Google, I just out of curiosity came across, I attended a sales training on ML, in Google on machine learning, and then I got so interested in AI and the capabilities that it had and how it seemed to be really intelligent and intuitive without so much human input needed. And I just started researching about it and wondering why people were not talking about AI, like why were programmers still stuck in programming and software programming. I just couldn't get it. So I started reading about it and I started talking about it like, guys, do AI. So I volunteered to speak at DevFest, for instance, and this was during my time still in travel, as the product lead, for EMEA. And at the time, I said, in all full disclosure and honesty, I am not the programmer. I am not an AI researcher, but I'm really interested in this, and I can see its potential to solve the world's top problems. I think that was the main key seller for me, was the fact that AI existed and cancer still exists as one of the number one killer diseases. And I just couldn't understand why, and I still can't understand why we still haven't been able to find a cure to cancer, right?
mm,
And some people will say there are political reasons for it or profit reasons for it.
mm,
Maybe that's true, but we have a technology there that could help. So I just wanted to generate awareness and I started speaking about it. And the more I spoke about it, the more people got interested and the more I got invited for talks. And then someone said, "Can you speak on racial bias in AI?" And I'm like, "What is that about?" Then I started reading about it, and the stories I read got me really scared because then it showed that AI could actually be used for good or it could be used for harm, depending on how we plan to use it or
yeah.
depending on how we build it. And I thought about my two beautiful little girls, and I was like, what sort of world would I leave my kids to if we are able to automate bias and discrimination and privacy issues? It's really hard to call it back or recall the damage once it's
Yes.
done. It's not like food products on the retail store that you say will recall the products. And we know that, X amounts of people in this town probably have been infected by salmonella, for instance.
Mm,
With
mm,
AI, it's different. The scale is so huge and so wide. So after I came across this, I was like, if that's the last thing I do on earth, I'm gonna keep on speaking about how to do AI right. And that's how I got into the field. And it's the one field I've been in for more than 2 years.
wow.
Been in it for over 6 years now, and it just keeps on, evolving and evolving. And it's just so exciting and interesting. So
It is. It is.
that's
It's
how I see it.
fascinating.
Yeah, that's
Fascinating. And so then Bedrock, eh, I assume, was just again because of your knowledge in the space and seeing the lack of knowledge in industry or in businesses.
exactly. So with Bedrock, it came up as a result of just speaking, and then people get it, but then it's a bit too complicated. And the question is, how do we now put this in practice? And I could just see it as like the speaking was one way of generating awareness, but I'm not sure how many people could put it in practice, given the range of audiences I speak to as well. They're not just technical teams, they're people from comms and from business and just different, teams and operations. So with Bedrock, it's really around helping people do it. And I think the main idea for Bedrock, which was the very first idea I had, and I'm still sticking to it because there's a strong need for it, is almost like a marketplace where people can actually have a workflow for their jobs. Like finance folks, for instance, can have access to all the different AI models, tools, companies that are out there that provide a solution, almost like a co-pilot, but in
Yeah.
a different way because it's addressing different user needs. depending on their work and depending on their, vocations.
Mm.
And then also offer a layer on responsible AI. So in other words, if you're using AI, you're not worried about if it's being responsible or not, if it's compliant. You don't need to worry about that. You should be sure that if you're using Bedrock's either models or MVP, then there wouldn't be any issues around compliance. So you can just work with AI with a free mind, and
Mm.
then also be able to measure your return on investment in the long run. Because again, AI is getting a lot of bad rep. It takes a lot of investment. People are not really seeing the return on investment. They're not quite sure if it's valuable. Some CEOs start AI and then pause it 8 months later, and then they're starting it again. So we just need to educate people on how to use AI, right? It's been here
Yeah,
before ChatGPT, and it
yeah,
works. It works properly, especially if you use it for business purposes. But people need to know how. And then speaking about it is one way, but it doesn't do the full work. But if you can give people a tool and say, hey, use this and you can achieve what you want, then makes it so much easier.
got it. Right. So let's jump back into where all this came from. So, as I said, we worked together in the travel and hotel ads space. And after that, you went into program management and product management. And where did you go from there?
I left Google. So the program management was in the Google research team on AI.
Right. So, after travel, you went into Google's AI research team.
Yeah.
Right. And what was your role in there?
Program manager and responsible AI. We were almost like the police for a
Yeah.
while, especially on the large language models like Lambda, and that was not way before Bard and Gemini now. But we worked on different processes. So I think what was lacking, and that's one of the reasons I got to Google Research, was just a lack of processes. And it's a normal thing. If you're in a research team, all you're meant to work on is research, right? You do some digging, you find out a problem, you come up with a few proposals, and you launch your research paper. And many times, especially on responsible AI, there's lots of great work being done there. And it's unearthed in the research paper, but then it gets lost there. No one else does anything, right? And it's a major problem across the world industry, especially large corporations like Google. So research stays in research, and it's very hard to move that knowledge into products. So
Right.
those are one of the things I worked on, is making sure we had the right processes to move the knowledge into products. So I did so many things like tech talks, or even just having a website for the newly built research responsible AI team in research, because when I joined, it was totally new. Um, Working on having some form of maturity process before launching any paper. It had to go through different processes and checks to make sure that the models had had done some form we had done some form of responsible AI checks on them and research on them. I'm trying to avoid going into the technical jargon there so I don't get everyone lost. So yeah, it was a very interesting job to have,
Mm.
because you realize that it's only very few people that understand how to build AI responsibly, even in a company like Google.
Mm.
And many times it's people in the responsible AI team, but even then, so many different facets and sections of responsible AI that you wouldn't find one person that has a knowledge in all of them. Everyone has the specialties. Someone could be working on fairness, which really looks at bias mitigations. Someone could be working on explainable AI, which looks at how to understand the models and how they operate. Someone else could be looking on AI governance or AI policies. Someone else can be looking at security and privacy and humans in the loop processes or human rights impact assessment. So there's so many different parts of it.
Mhm.
And being a program manager puts you in the middle. So you're able to bring all of these different pieces together and come up with a good narrative and then pass that knowledge on to the product teams, and hopefully they pick it up as well.
Wow. That sounds really fascinating, but also incredibly difficult.
Yes, it was a very hard job to do.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And at some point during that, you decided, right, I think I can do more, or I think I can go and do this on my own. What was the thinking? What was inspiring you to go with that idea?
I think in my entire career journey and career path, I grow. I always move. I move up. I'm never able to just stay in the same role, same job for too long. Like you've probably seen and experienced. And once I feel like I've learned the knowledge I need to learn and I have made the impact I need to make on that team, I look for the next move. And that's how it worked. So it was the same thing with the responsible AI team. I knew from the start I'll not be there for too long. Like I had my plans I wanted to do on the team, like making sure we had the right processes in place and making sure the knowledge wasn't stopped the researchers, but it was being scaled across the rest of the organization. And I was able to do that. And it got to a stage where I had done everything I wanted to do, and I felt I'd learned everything I needed to learn. I'd worked with the most difficult teams on the most difficult projects. I'd done all of that. And at this stage, I'm sitting, what next? And there
Mm.
was nothing I could think about that excited me anymore. Or I want to do this. You know what? We always tend to have these overarching plans and ambitions. And
Mm.
I felt like I ticked every box on the team on what I want to do, apart from sitting down waiting for promotion and trying to kill everybody else to get promoted. Like, and I had gotten promoted as well. So for me, it was like, what next? But on the side, I was already writing a book, so I got approached by a publisher. And the reason I accepted to write the book, which was very counterproductive, was at this time I'm getting more and more invitations for talks, and I'm working full time, and I'm like, I cannot keep on dividing myself across both. So if I write a book, rather than going for a talk, I'll just say, "Hey, I have a book there. Go read it."
Just read that. And so you were still at Google when you wrote your first book. What was your first book called?
Building responsible AI algorithms.
Okay, okay. And you were approached by someone to do that.
I was approached by a publisher who worked for a subsidiary of Springer Nature, so one of the world's top publishers. And I was like,
Mhm.
I never say no to an opportunity, even if I know it could be difficult.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah,
let's do it. It was one of the hardest things I've done in my life,
really.
writing the first book. And I was like, why did I say yes to this thing? Like, during summer holidays, I'm not vacationing. I am just sitting down trying to meet up to the deadlines of writing the chapters. At the end, it was worth it, of course, but doing it was really hard. And then the next challenge was getting Google to approve the book. And I
Right.
thought I wouldn't need that, but because I was a Googler, whatever you do at Google, you're representing the company. So there was a bit of a back and
Oh,
forth
really?
on that as well. Yeah,
Okay, so they actually did you have to submit the book to them to review?
yeah, I had to
No, so at least one person read it.
publication review. Yeah, so I was happy with that because then I had researchers actually read the book, right? Considering that my background wasn't research or even AI or computer science, and I kind of like jumped into the field based on my
Yes.
interest, I needed that validation anyway, and I got it, and I was happy about that.
And then from there, sorry, by the way, I think it's like an amazing achievement for someone who didn't come from the programming background, didn't just got interested in it, researched to a level that a publisher is approaching you, and were able to write it, research it, write it, get it approved by one of the biggest players in the AI business, and get it published as well. I mean, that's a massive achievement,
Thank you.
and not to be downplayed by any stretch of the imagination. And so when that came out, was it a success? Did that give you the idea I could go and do more of this, or what happened?
So the book came out just about the time I'd left Google. By the time I was leaving, I mean, I'd already gotten to like a plateau in my career progression on the team anyway, and because I'd moved from like sales and GBO, Global Business Organization. I was
Business,
trying
yeah.
to remember the names now, and into like the research org. I'd already done like a big flip, right? A big leap from one different part of Google to the other, which is not quite common with Googlers anyway.
Mm,
I wasn't ready to keep on doing that. Like, where should I go into Eng now? Should I, I just didn't find it interesting. And I kind of had achieved what I wanted to achieve. Like, I wanted to get into the AI team and gain some experience there, and I'd done it. So I knew it was time to leave. But then at that time, started getting some friction as well with the comms team, because that's when AI kicked off, right? AI
right,
was a big deal. So Google was being very careful about who speaks on AI from the company,
right,
and they wanted to like look at my speaking points and approve or disapprove any speaking engagement I had, which in the past was not necessary. So it became a bit of friction. Like, Cambridge University had invited me to speak. I'd said no. They went through Google, spoke to a BD person in Google, business development person, and the person approached me. So this was on behalf of Google. And the person said, we want you. I said, yes. And then comms team said no. And then Cambridge was chasing. And, there was just so much back and forth for 2 weeks. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And I just got tired. I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. At the
Mm,
end, Google finally approved for me to speak. They had to create speaking points and make sure that, I had all the speaking points. And I think at this stage, they decided I needed to go through the formal training for, people, the senior execs who speak on behalf of Google.
yes.
But even the training didn't fly. There was a bit of a mix up there and I didn't do it. But at that time, I was already like, this is getting way too much. The problem with AI is not a Google problem, it's a worldwide problem. And I do feel like I've finished my work here. I'll rather go to the rest of the world and just deliver this message in any way I can and just make sure that, if we're using AI or building it, we're doing it properly to protect the human race and to just make sure that it's a technology that is serving us as opposed to we serving it.
Got it.
So I left.
So you called it a day. And did you, in the lead up to that, let me ask it this way. Was that a sudden decision, or had you put some plans in place for, like, with your family or financially? How had you prepped?
It was a decision of like 2 months.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But when I think about it, I think most of my decisions are very quick.
Mm.
And I don't know if I regret later. And Google was laying off people at that time. So I was wishing I would get laid off. I
Yeah.
even asked my manager, like, can you put me on the list? And she's like, this is above my pay grade. I can't. But I knew that even if they were laying people off, I wouldn't be the first person on the list. I'll probably be
Well, if you're working in the AI space, that's
right.
not the place that we're going to start laying people off,
My
right?
team, I was doing literally I was working in almost every project. Like I was a very valuable member of my team as well. So I knew
Mm.
that, even if they were doing that, and I couldn't stay and wait for that
No.
because I need to be happy with what I do. And at this stage, I wasn't happy. And I think it was beginning to show, and I didn't realize it. And I knew when I joined Google as well, I always heard myself saying I was at Google for 10 years. And
Oh,
this was
wow.
the 10-year mark. So it was
Okay.
like, it's almost like it was meant to be kind of thing. And I knew that when I joined the responsible AI team, I'll probably be there for a couple of years. And it was exactly 2 years, Brian, when I left the team.
Oh, wow.
Literally to
Okay.
the date.
All right. So you say you tend to make your decisions quick, but in actual fact, there's some part of your brain that's got a timer ticking away, going like, okay, we said 10, let's get out.
Yeah, it's probably like it's meant to happen. It was
Yeah.
working in the background of my mind. And then when it's time to go, you just kind of like make the decision and you're thinking it was quick, but it wasn't quite quick. But in my head, in my initial brain or subconscious, I'm not thinking that I'm leaving now. But
Yeah.
then there are plans going on that I don't know about.
And so you finish up at Google, you hand in your badge and your laptop, and you put the free smoothies down, and you got to start off. So, day one diaries, what was it like when you kicked off?
I felt so happy. I think I had a bit of burnout at Google without realizing it. I mean, you can't be at Google for 10 years and not say that you didn't suffer from some form of burnout. Um, so at this stage, I just felt free. I felt
Yeah.
happy. But then I started realizing part of the respect I had was because I was at Google. And, companies paying their invoices on time was because I was at Google. And the moment I left, it's like that big brand, that big name just dropped. And even if people still had a high regard for who I was because of what I'd contributed, the things like payments were not happening on time anymore.
Right.
So the world that I had seen it with tinted glasses when I was at Google changed. And I was like, is this really how it is out there? I
Right.
want to come back. When you take me back, the world here is hard.
Yeah. Things are difficult when you don't have that 800-pound gorilla behind you.
Right. And I wasn't, I didn't really have any savings or anything, right? But I did have speaking jobs that were already lined up. So I knew that my finances were covered to a certain extent. What I just didn't realize is that people delay in paying people
Wow.
speak, especially when you're a one-man team. It's like that
Yeah.
is just not there. And I'm like,
That's so fascinating that you were able to recognize that difference so quickly.
but yeah, that was a very interesting observation. So I had to start changing the way I invoiced. And along the line, out of my frustrations, I spoke to some person who I just met who had come from the US, and she said, "Oh, some speakers who are really good. charge 50% upfront or 100% upfront. And I'm like, yeah, I know I'm good. I'm going to charge that. And I started doing that.
Really?
And when you work with speaker bureaus, it's a bit different. So with speaker bureaus, you can't do that because, it's their company and they have access.
Right.
Clients is going through them. But when the people come to me directly, I did start saying, I need to pay up front and cover all expenses a month before to secure the booking. And it started working. So my cash flow became better. Um, but one of the reasons I started Bedrock was because I just need a steady income.
Yes.
And when you have your own startup, you have a steady income. I did consider going back into 9 to 5, not happily, but just because of the fact that you need to survive, kind of thing. But it didn't work out. At the end of the day, being in the UK, Google is still one of the top. Google is one of the top paid salaries or
Mm.
or used in the UK. But I wasn't feeling it. It wasn't a lot, and I knew I could make more money being on my own. I think what I needed to remember was it's not just going to happen overnight.
Yes. Yes.
It does take time, and you will go through different seasons.
Mm.
Seasons where there's going to be so much money coming in, and the seasons when it's going to be dry. At least in
Yes.
the first couple of years,
And how do you manage those times when it is dry? How do you hold that nerve?
it's hard. It's hard. You need money, right? You need money to eat and everything. But staying positive. I think then I really work on my mindset. Like I need to work on my mindset every day, but it's really like staying positive, looking for the opportunities and doing what you need to do without getting distracted. Because at the end of the day, I really believe like there's wealth out there. And I don't just work for money, but of course I want to have a good life. Like, why will I come to earth and be alive and just suffer all through? No way. Just take me out. That's always been one of my mantras. So it's like there is money out there, and the people who are making money, they're not more intelligent than you. They're more strategic, and some of them inherited the wealth, but they've managed to keep the wealth and not just let it run to the ground. But there are ways of achieving what you want to achieve. And many times it starts with how you start your day, how you see yourself, how you think. This is like your mindset, right? If you're thinking, this is horrible, I'm never going to make any money. This business is just really going to shut down by December. If no one comes to me, then that's what you're going to attract, right? The law of attraction.
Right.
But if you think, well, it's going to work out, and I'm going to figure it out, then you start thinking of ways to make it work. Then it works. But for speaking for me, I've learned to understand that the different seasons. So during the summer, everyone is on holiday in Europe, so you don't really get speaking invites,
Hmm.
and just planning for that season if
Yes.
you can, right? Um, but then also understanding that with speaking, it was almost like a reactive thing, and I just didn't like it. You're just waiting for someone to have an event to invite you for an event. Okay, what if
Yes.
it's having an event? But people are having events every day across the world. So now I've gotten to a stage where I have a management team, and it's one of the best companies in the world. And they approached me, and I said yes. So they will bring more jobs for me, and that's part of the promise. Um, so I'm not on that reactive stage anymore. But it's just
Yes.
figuring out how to get out of it, right? And with diverse AI and Bedrock AI, ideally they should bring income. And then the next question is really around time management and strategy and having the right people around you to help make these things work. And all of these take time.
Yeah. And do you feel the tension in yourself to try and make these all happen at the same time?
No, I don't, because I'm not getting the pressure from anyone. I don't have investors yet.
Right.
No one is saying what's happening with this project or what's happening there. So what I've learned to do is prioritize where the income comes in, because realistically, no matter how excited I get about projects, I need to feed. And I'm a single parent, and I'm happy to say that on here. So it's like it's on me, and I've got kids, and
Mm.
it's on me to make sure that we all are able to feed. Unfortunately, that's my situation right now. So it has to work, and I'm kind of grateful to be in this sort of situation, because then it pushes me to my full max. And if I had that comfort zone and that comfort layer, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. I probably wouldn't have achieved what I've achieved, or even go to the future in terms of the plans that I have for the
Mm.
future. So many times the circumstances that you find yourself in could either make you go higher or make you go lower, but the choice is on you.
Yes, that scarcity breeds clarity type of idea. Like you say, you've got mouths to feed, and so decisions need to be made so that we can get through this month, next month, and this year. Hopefully, if we can think that far out, and that's the way it moves. So I think that's the challenge for anyone who starts off on their own without investment, where you're just like, okay,
Mm,
let's deal with the today and the tomorrow, and let's hopefully get comfortable enough to worry about next year soon.
exactly.
And for both I guess a home life or a business, have you built a network of or support of people who can be there to help, to support, to advise? How have you built those out over time?
I have good friends. I have friends that I make almost every day, and part of it is from business, right? You meet people and you connect and become friends and you work together. So I have that. I have that support network. The people from across the world. I have people that I've known many years ago, and some of them too have dropped off. They've dropped off my friends circle, friendship circle, because they became toxic or they showed a different side of them. Especially again being a public figure, you see different sides of people, and some people just come with pretenses, but I do have a very strong supportive network. Like if I need to call someone tomorrow and just cry and whine, I can do that. I try not to. I tend to have my own personal therapy sessions where I will cry if there's something stressing me out. I'll talk to myself and then I get myself back up, right? But then I could have friends that I could do it too. But I try not to focus on negative because again, it goes back to the mindset. And it's the mindset that shapes your day. It's the mindset that shapes what you do. It shapes your productivity. It shapes how you see yourself. So it's like if you stay positive, it will work out.
Mm,
And if you think that this is just not going to work out and it's total shit, it's going to be that way. So it's what do you tell yourself when you get up
yeah.
in the morning? And some days you're going to have bad days, and that's normal. And let those bad days come. Do not fight it. That's your emotions talking to you. Let your emotions speak to you because they always have a message, and that's just part of your processing. And after that, you'll find out that you even spring up much higher because now you've gone through the motions. You have acknowledged what's going on around you, but then you have told yourself you're not going to stay defeated. And really, defeat is not a choice. And really, what does that really look like?
Mm, yeah. I think it's that the phrase of if the people who think it's not going to work out are usually right. And it's that same thing, but certainly recognize that those moments that you talk about when you feel like things aren't going well or you're worried about something, and I'm the same in the sense of you find yourself going like, oh, wow, and then almost punishing yourself for feeling like that. You're like, oh no, I should be more optimistic. But I think it is important, as you say, to let that wash over you. Let yourself feel that, because I think that really means that you're consciously knowing what you're facing and knowing what you have to deal with. Because if you keep just saying, "No, everything's gonna be fine. I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna find a way," and you don't really understand the problem, you won't get to where you need to go. And similar to yourself, it only takes that little bit of processing, of talking to someone, that to then say, "Actually, you know what? This is what I need to do to solve that," and then you start on that path again.
And that's the process of building your emotional intelligence and your emotional awareness, which is all part of the overall spectrum of being a human being.
Well, listen, one thing that we always ask at this podcast, you lived in the very, very comfortable confines of Google and you had the free smoothies, the free food, the gym, all of those great things. And you decided to go out on your own and do diverse AI and you're speaking and Bedrock. You happy you did it?
I'll never change it for the world.
No?
The best decision, one of the best decisions I've made. And even if I'm not earning a monthly income, I'm happy with the work I'm doing. I'm happy with the impact I'm making. I'm happy with the mission and the critical nature of the work that I do, that it just drives me every day. And for me, it's like, remember, I got into it. Part of why I got into AI is for my kids or for the
Mm,
next generation. So for me, it's like, when I'm 70, and that's something I always like, ask myself, like that reflection point is by the time you're 70, would you look back on your life and be happy with what you did? I would be happy. But I asked myself the question 2 days ago and I said, if I die today, I will be happy with what I've done so far.
yeah.
So it was the right move to make, and it was the right move to make at the right time.
Excellent. Look, I think were the worst to happen, that would be you could and should be very proud of what you have achieved. Told you, it's been fantastic. I've been amazed at the success that you've had, the way that you've taken on new challenges, saw opportunities, and brought yourself through this amazing process in just like 5 years from showing an interest or getting or hearing about AI for the first place to become an author of 2 books, a speaker on world stages, and a founder of another business. I think you've done incredible things, and I can't wait to see, support, and who knows, even be part of some of this as we go forward. So it's been fantastic to talk to you, Toju, and thank you so much for coming on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brian.